Before getting started, please make sure that you've received all the parts needed for the conversion and make sure to power up the SC48 to check that everything is working normally. Please refer to the documentation supplied with the kits for step-by-step instructions and use this video as a visual reference. Remove all 26 screws holding the main top panel assembly. Depending on the console revision, one of the following two types of screws may be installed. Hex type, use a 2mm hex bit. Torx type, use a Torx T10 bit. Hold the front edge of the top panel and carefully lift it upwards to a vertical position. Once the panel is open, secure it by tightening the two interior captive thumb screws located on the top left and right sides of the console. Locate the fan number 1 currently installed in the SC48 and test the new fan by attaching it to the power connector, then power up the SC48 and power it down. This fan will be reused in the new bracket assembly. Remove all 18 screws holding the fader panel assembly. Lift the fader panel up disconnect the 9 cables attached to it and then remove it from the console. Disconnect the 11 cables attached to both left and right PCBs. Label the cables if necessary to retrieve their original positions, and lift the panel away from the console. Disconnect the 3 50-pin cables and loosen the captive thumb screws from the back of the cards. Remove the 4 screws securing the cards to the back of the console. Pull the cards out. If required, output cards installed in the SC48 can be removed for installation in the Stage 48 box. The removal procedure is the same as the input cards. Remove the 3 external hex screws and then remove the 8 internal hex screws. On the back panel of the console, remove the 4 screws that secure the monitor connectors, DVI and VGA, with a 5mm nut driver. Remove the 2 screws at the front of the card and release it from the mounting shafts by pulling the card towards the front of the console. Remove the first bracket held in position by 7 Phillips head screws inside the console To ease access, a long flexible screwdriver like shown would be useful. Two further screws are located on the left-hand side of the console. Undo the fan and lift the bracket out. For the second bracket, remove the two screws securing the bracket to the exterior top edge of the console, the 3 screws from the side, the 5 screws at the bottom of the chassis, and lift out the bracket. Remove the fan and the 3 levels brackets from the old metal bracket. Attach the old and new fan to the bracket. Add the power wire extension to the new fan on the left side. Make sure to pay attention to the airflow direction. Reinstall the 3 levels brackets. Stick the neoprene protection to the bottom corner and place the grommets. For the second bracket, place the grommet across. Please refer to the documentation for exact location. Carefully place the first bracket inside the console and make sure not to damage any cable or connector. Once the part is reseated correctly, reinstall all the removed screws starting from the side, then the bottom of the chassis and the top section. Install the second new bracket where the old one used to be. Use the 7 Phillips head screws previously removed to secure the new bracket inside the console. Connect both fan power cables to the original fan number 1 and fan number 2 power locations. Align the card's mounting holes to the shafts on the bracket and place the card on the shafts. Secure the card to the console chassis by replacing the 4 previously removed screws using a nut driver. Locate the 11 hex screws. Add a drop of thread locker to the 3 external ones only, and then place the remaining ones on the inside. Label each cable. Disconnect the 50-pin input-output ribbon cables from the hub 48 card, port A to E. Loosen the 5 captive thumb screws that secure the cage to the console chassis. This frees up the DSP cage to allow you room for maneuver. Connect the 40-pin HD cable to the firewire port on the second mix engine card at the bottom. To get access, you'll have to disconnect the 40-pin ribbon cable from the firewire port on the first mix engine card in the middle. Tighten the 5 captive thumb screws to secure the cage to the chassis. If you're planning on using any output cards in the remote stage SC48 box, you'll need to connect the supplied output ribbon cables to port D and potentially port E. Refer to the documentation for further info. Slide the snake card into slot B of the SC48. Inside the SC48, tighten the 2 captive thumb screws to secure the card to the chassis. On top of the snake card, locate the 5 I/O card ports. The ports labelled A, B and C are for connecting remote input cards, and the ports labelled D and E are for connecting remote output cards. Connect the 40-pin HD cable on the snake card. Fold the cables so that they lay flat against the snake card and ensure good cable run by securing them with cable ties. Place the top panel into a vertical position in the console chassis. Tighten the captive thumb screws to lock the panel in position. Reconnect all cables that were previously removed. Lay the fader panel down on the console and reconnect all 9 cables. Close the fader panel and close the top panel carefully. Remove the front covers take the rear panel off, disconnect the fan, slide the cards into position, secure them with the thumb screws located inside the stage box. Connect the 3 internal ribbon cables reattach the fan and close the rear panel. Power on the SC48 and make sure it boots up without error messages. In the D-Show software, go to Options, Devices, and verify that all system components are recognized.